right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Tammy, welcome everyone to the Cause and Business Education series. These are monthly events that we're putting on as a part of the programs that we offer at the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the Executive Director of the Cause Marketing Chamber. And we have a featured speaker every month who comes in and talks about a topic that will benefit both traditional businesses and nonprofit organizations. And the way that our format works is that Tammy Belt, our featured speaker for today, is going to present for about 30 minutes. And then after she presents, we'll have a question and answer period. For those of you in Facebook world, I'll be keeping an eye on you. If you have any questions that you want to ask, please utilize the chat box. After she has done her presentation and we've done our question and answer period, we will take the last few minutes to do a networking event where we will talk about the various businesses that we are a part of. And I just want to let everyone know that I reached out to Tammy. I met her recently on a podcast that my company sponsors. And I just loved her energy and her commitment to what it is that she believes in. She talked a lot about purpose. And for those of you who are familiar with what the Cause Marketing Chamber is all about, purpose is front and center and why we do everything that we do. And I felt that having her come on to talk about stories, she is a PR and marketing person. She's been doing it for many years. And I felt that she'd be the ideal presenter for something related to stories. And so, Tammy, welcome to the Cause and Business Education series. And you can take it away and share your stories about how to create great stories. Tammy?
Thank you, Guy. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity to speak to everyone. This is gonna be maybe a little bit different. It's kind of the stories about the stories. And it's what you need to think of behind the stories that you're creating. Now, being part of the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce, you've already bought into the idea of supporting or creating a good cause. You know that that's a good thing to do. And like most of you, you do it to make a difference, not for accolades. And my clients over the years have always shared that. They've always said, I don't do it for recognition. I do it because it matters and it's the right thing to do. Well, I'm going to tell you what I told them. It's not about you. Sharing your stories about supporting a cause is about increasing awareness for that charity or that cause. It's about setting an example for others to step up and join in and support. And finally, it matters to your employees, your customers, your industry, your community. So I'm going to start by talking about the cost of telling your stories on purpose. Here's why it pays to tell your story straight from the mouths that matter. 78% of people want to work for a company that aligns with their values and causes that they support. 76% are more likely to trust that company, while 72% are more likely to be loyal to that company. It builds brand loyalty, and that translates into income. And along with that, 70% are more likely to defend a company if someone spoke badly of it. Now, there's review sites and people are they're sparking fires all over the place on social media. And as an organization, whether you're a company or a nonprofit, you can't and you shouldn't spend your time putting out fires all the time, because a lot of it has no merit. And once you engage, you're fanning the flames, and you do not want to keep that conversation going. Of course, if there is a legitimate concern or a problem, yes, address it right away, absolutely. But there's so much out there that isn't a real problem. And instead of you engaging in it, other people will speak up on your behalf. It happens all the time. Either that or nobody will engage and it will just go away. And 72% are more likely to forgive a company or an organization if it makes a misstep. Now, I'm not talking major blatant things, but companies are filled with people. And guess what? Each one of us are imperfect. We're going to make mistakes no matter how good we are, no matter how careful we are. We're going to make mistakes. And as long as you are honest and take care of it and fix it, people will forgive you, because people want to be forgiven when they make mistakes, because we're going to. People want to buy from a company that shares their values. We all want to be part of something bigger. And sometimes we don't know how to do that, but supporting a company that supports a cause that we believe in, it makes us feel better. 62% of the people believe it's important, even when they're making impulse decisions. And 77%, they prefer and only purchase from purpose-driven companies, even when cost and quality are equal. And when cost and quality aren't equal, people still, the overwhelming majority still purchases from a company that aligns with their cause. And 78% are more likely to remember a company that aligns with their cause. And that, again, goes back to sales and brand loyalty. Now, let's go on to how building, sharing, and the story behind the story, to talk about the curation. The first order of business is to get your story straight. Actions speak louder than words. You can't put a Prius engine in a Lamborghini and expect peak performance. You need you need to align your values with your actions, just like children. People, yeah, I thought that the guys would like that Lamborghini and Prius thing. Just like, people like, oh, my children, they don't listen to me. And they probably don't. But what do? They watch everything that you do. 60% of people pay attention, not to what companies say, but what they do. They hold them accountable. They make sure that they are walking the talk in their policies, procedures, everything that they do, their suppliers, how they do business, who they do business with, who they associate with. 66% of Americans believe it's good for businesses and companies to address social justice issues. We're all in this together. Companies help shape how healthy a community is, to create a better place to live, work, and do business. And aligning with charities and other people in the community helps build stronger communities. 62% of Americans believe companies can help normalize social justice conversations. We need to bring the temperature down when it comes to conversations. And the more organizations can talk about doing the right thing for the right reason and show the results just in a normal conversation, I think is going to help everyone. And people are asking for it. Now, every organization wants their employees, volunteers to be loyal to them, but it starts with the organization being loyal to the employee, volunteer, donor. 57% of employees want their company not just to address social justice issues, but issues that affect them personally. And that makes sense. You have to care about the people who are caring about you. 43% are reconsidering their current job because the company isn't doing enough to support what they think should be supported externally. Now, here's the golden question that everybody wants to know. How do you pitch your stories to the media? Now, this is a recent survey by Muckrack, but I'm going to tell you, it comes with a big it depends. It depends on the journalist's preferences. It depends on the deadlines, and it depends on the medium. Now, this mainly reflects traditional media, so newspapers and broadcast like TV. And the majority of the media want to get pitches on Monday before noon. And that's because they have a media budget. It doesn't matter that the newspaper is daily. It doesn't matter that the TV station has 3 broadcasts a day. They have limited time and they need to budget. They have what they call editorial budget meetings. The size of a newspaper is determined by the amount of advertising in it. That determines the editorial space that they have for stories. TV, they have time constraints. They have more stories than they can broadcast, and they have to figure out what they're going to do. And they figured this out. They make their deadlines by the amount of time that it takes them to compile and produce the stories. So even though they come out every day, newspapers a lot of times will say, I need this 4 weeks in advance, because they need time to produce and package and fit it in when and where they can fit it in. When it comes to pitching, oh, please stop asking your PR person, did you call him? Did you call him? Did you call him? Stop it. They hate to be called, right, Guy? Most of them, why? Because you're interrupting them, physically interrupting them. They are trying to write, they're trying to interview, they are trying to research. And with that physical interruption, trust me, if they want to get a hold of you, they will. They will email you back. They will call you if they want more information. And you're probably surprised at why the newswire is so low. The newswire is so low is because everybody and their mother can get on the newswire. They don't know how to pitch. They don't know who to pitch. They have no clue. It drives them crazy. They prefer email, and they prefer a personal email. Do not send all CC'd on an email blast. That is that rookie move. Don't do that. Address each one personally. And yes, it takes time. And that's part of the value of doing public relations correctly, because it's about relationships with clients, relationships with customers, relationships with the media, and following up. Yes, it's appropriate to follow up. Not every time, not 5 times. You don't want to be nagged about things that you said you were going to do. Once, maybe twice, depending on the importance of the story and the person that you're pitching. And again, personal email. And don't do it the next day and the next day. Give them a couple days. Give them a few days to get through it. You know, you don't want to be nagged. Don't nag them, and don't nag your PR person to nag them, because they won't. Well, if you insist that we do, we'll say, yeah, I haven't heard back from them yet. Because we're not going to ruin our relationships with the media. And your ideal pitch length. Oh my God, you don't get to write the story, because you know what? Your story is not about you. Your story is about what is news to the reader, the listener, the viewer. It's what's news to the person consuming the media. It needs to be short. Ain't nobody got time to read a whole bunch of stuff. We were talking before about attention spans. They have to do so much. It's a news item. You don't get to write the story. You don't get to tell the whole story. That's the media's job. 100 words or less. maybe 200, maybe if it's not full of fluff. If you pique their interest and it's a good pitch, trust me, they're going to get a hold of you and they're going to ask for more information because it's their job. It's their job to do that. Now, on to the consequences. We do what we do because we want to make a difference. We want to create change. But even good actions can lead to negative consequences. Cancel culture is just a new word for boycotts, for protests, for sit-ins. It's just a new word, and they always come up with a new word and give it positive and negative connotations. And it seems so much more because it's amplified by social media. You know, it spreads faster and farther on social media. I wish there was an app for truth, to make sure that things are true. But it's just another name. But actions speak louder than words. So your story is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, sponsorships are a great way for brands to connect with the audience that they desire to serve. And sponsorships include things that sometimes they shouldn't. Throughout my career, when I was in corporate America and since I've had my own company, I would review sponsorships to see, who we were going to get involved in. And I've written sponsorships when I've worked with charities. I've written sponsorships. It's not something that I typically do anymore, but I've been on both sides of it. And when sponsorships include things like product placement, you need to be careful, because just like you need to make sure that your message fits the medium, you need to make sure that your sponsorship fits the story of everyone involved. Now, Ronaldo, when he was doing a press conference after the game that Coca-Cola was a sponsor of and had a product placement sponsorship, you see it all the time. The broadcasters, the athletes, and then there's the product right there by the microphone. Well, this is in real time. This was, Coca-Cola was right there. Well, the problem is Ronaldo isn't about sugary drinks. He's about health. He pushed aside the bottles of Coke outside of the camera view. He held up his bottled water and he said, agua, healthy. This and other things are rewriting the sponsorship script in real time. You have to make sure it's a fit. It's not that they shouldn't have sponsored it. It was that certain product placements aren't appropriate. Athletes and celebrities are going to remain true to their brand. They don't have to buy in to a sponsorship that they had nothing to do with. Now, the majority of brands and charities, they're not involved with major league sponsorships, but they still make the exact same missteps. Now, when social media first came out, this was a rookie move, but it's coming back with a vengeance, and I don't understand why. People will they'll post things on other people's wall on social media, or they'll tag a bajillion people on posts. Don't do that. Your message doesn't belong on other people's walls unless they decide to share it, and they will. But using their timeline as your billboard is not okay. It's just, you don't know what their content strategy is. You don't know what they were planning on posting. They will share your content. They will. People want to help. People want to share. People are proud of what they support. And if they support you, they will share your information. Don't beg them. Please share me. Please like me. Don't, that is annoying. Please don't do that. But just like when you're at a networking event or a luncheon, and it's election season, and all of a sudden you see all the people running for office that you never see any other time. The people that are supposed to represent you, the people that are supposed to serve you, and all of a sudden they just show up when they want your vote. And you're in conversations, and sometimes it's you're having a little business meeting, or sometimes you're just catching up. It doesn't matter. You're having private conversations, and they interrupt. They come in, they say, vote for me, remember me, this is what I'm doing. And then they go on to interrupt the next person. That's kind of the same thing as writing on everybody else's wall and tagging people when it's not appropriate to tag them. So just be conscious of that. This is how to play on purpose. This is how to do it right. When Carl Nassib came out as the first actively gay NFL player, he had a purpose. It wasn't about him. He wanted to cultivate a culture that's accepting and compassionate. So as soon as he came out, he stated his purpose of cultivating a culture that's accepting and compassionate, and he walked the talk and backed it up by donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project. That's how to win and play on purpose and make it about the cause, not about you. When Naomi Osaka withdrew from the French Open because she wouldn't talk to the media, they fined her $15,000. She paid the fine, and she said, I hope you donate it to a mental health charity. She has suffered from depression her whole life. And these are world-class athletes. They're not wimpy people who don't want to answer tough questions from the media. No, the media sometimes doesn't play fair. Andre Agassi was notorious for he refused to give media interviews because they didn't play nice. They're not afraid of competition. They compete with the best in the world. It's not about that. It's about standing up for yourself and what you believe in. Now, when causes like this are in the news, it's a great time for brands, charities to voice what they do. It's an opportunity for them to join the spotlight. But how you do it, again, you have to make it about the purpose, not self-promotional. Well, there's a meditation app called Calm, and Calm jumped into the conversation and said, we'll pay Naomi's fine of $15,000. Well, that was kind of ridiculous. I don't know if they have an affiliation with her or not, but that was ridiculous. Naomi paid her own fine. But they corrected, and they said, we're donating $15,000 to a youth charity, for mental health. And that's what they did. So they kind of saved face, and they became an ally instead of a self-promotional riding on the coattails kind of. So again, you have to think about how you're positioning the story, what story to tell, and how to tell it. I'm going to leave you with some things to think about. Can you afford the cost of keeping quiet when so many people are demanding that you speak up? Is your organization aligned with the stories you tell? Are you walking the talk with your policies, your procedures, with everything that you're doing? And what are the consequences of your actions? anytime you take a stand, you run the risk of being a target and getting negative feedback and maybe losing customers. But that's always going to happen. If you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, more people will be attracted to you, will support you, will become customer evangelists than will leave. So now I invite you to continue the conversation.
That was very well done, Tammy. There was some outstanding information, especially being a public relations person. There was a lot that I could relate to in what you were talking about. But before I start asking you questions, I wanted to see if anyone else out here had any questions for Tammy about her presentation.
Not really a question. It's more of a comment, if that's okay.
Yeah.
It was nice to see numbers that someone actually went and did research on how many of you people actually care if a company does good versus just providing you a product. And what was it, 78% would prefer a company social responsible versus profit only. That tells me that it's getting more attention if someone's researching the numbers.
Oh, and this research has been going on forever. When I founded my company in 2002, it was to transform the way companies approach communication strategy, because nobody has one, and community engagement, because public relations is not corporate social responsibility. It's corporate social responsibility is a business decision. It needs to be baked into the foundation of the company, but we tell the stories about it. And you need the statistics. I like stories, not statistics, but you need the statistics to back it up. And I've been following this for a long time. Porter Novelli, Boston College of Corporate Communications. There's a whole bunch of research out there. And I pulled all the new stuff for this presentation, but it's always been the overwhelming majority. That's what it always has. And because Guy asked me to do a presentation for businesses and charities, that's when I put the statistics in there, because public relations is challenging to measure. And you don't, 78%, but you don't know from where. It's notorious that since the beginning of advertising, they said 50% of advertising works. We just don't know which 50%. And it's true, because it's, you can't put a price tag on the value of a relationship. It is not a bottom line on a spreadsheet. What's the value of your spouse, your parents, your pet, your friends? You can't put a price on that. And it's hard to measure that. They try, but they don't. So things like this matter, and that's the proof.
That is an excellent point, Tammy. And you had, when you were mentioning the measurability of the results that you produce as far as being a PR firm. Now, for an individual person, I know you also talked quite a bit about, you gave some excellent advice on how an individual can pitch. And I know, again, our professions, you and I, this is what we do for a living. We get paid to do this, but I just wanted to see if you would elaborate on how doable pitching really is for a person, that you don't necessarily have to be a PR professional. Although, yes, it's better if you come and hire someone like Tammy or I to do it, of course, because of all the experience that we have in doing it. But anyone can go out and get their own media, right,
Yeah.
Tam?
The value of having a PR person is we know how to position it. We know who to pitch. It takes time to get to know who covers what, who's the appropriate person. You don't just throw it out there. You pick one person at the newspaper, unless the story truly has 3 different angles, which is rare. I mean, yes, it happens, but they're all in the same editorial budget meeting, and each section isn't going to cover one part of your I mean, it's just, it's got to be a pretty big deal for them to do that. I'm not saying that it never happens, but it's got to be a pretty big deal. You have to pitch the right person. You have to know how to pitch them. And again, that just comes with experience. No, it's not rocket science. It's common sense, and it's time consuming. You know, that's the value of having somebody do it for you. As a business owner or as the head of a nonprofit, you have enough work to do. That's why you delegate what you don't have time to do to somebody who does. And that's the value. It's not like, oh, this mysterious thing, you can't do that. No, I mean, I've done presentations all about how to do it, how to get, how to build a media list. It just takes more time than most people want to deal with. You know, you have to know who covers what. You have to read what they write. You have to know them and know the publication, and you have to know what the audience that you desire to serve. You have to know what they're reading. You know, I've had people go, I want to be on the front page of the business section. I'm like, do you read the business section? They're like, no. So meet them where they are. There's so many mediums to tell your story. I'm not putting down TV or newspapers or radio, but there's so many more mediums. And own your own medium as much as you can. Don't be beholden to the algorithms of social media. We live in Vegas, people. The house always wins. You are not going to win the algorithm game. You're not. They constantly change it, and you're not going to win. You're not going to be on the front page of Google, because Google searches Google, not the whole internet. And the search results are different for each person based upon their search results. It's like you're not going to get the same recommendations from Amazon as your neighbor because you don't have the same preferences. So own your own medium. And as antiquated as it sounds, a newsletter hits the inbox of people who gave you permission to talk to them. You know, you own your website. You own the information that you can post. As much as you can, own your mediums. Yes, you're still going to need social media. You're still going to need to get stories in, you know, traditional publications and trade journals and that kind of stuff. But as much as you can, own your own through blogs, through newsletters, through your website, because and know where your customers are. Don't go for a story in the Wall Street Journal if nobody reads it. You know, the people that you want to attract, if it doesn't work, it won't reach them. It won't matter to them. So you have to go where they are.
Yeah, excellent points. And does anyone have any other questions for Tammy, by the way? Well, okay, so I definitely have more questions, Tammy. There was another thing that you talked about that stood out for me, and it was it's something that I've been working on with clients for many years, because on the PR and marketing stage, I'm a big believer. Back in 2008, when I got started in business, I cut my chops with nonprofit organizations, being a PR rep with and a lot of us have. People who are in the PR world tend to work with a lot of nonprofits because they always need help and they have great stories to tell.
The best.
Yeah. So for me, but one of the things that as I started to work with people in traditional business, and I would encourage them to get in alignment with a nonprofit organization. But one of the things that you touched on that was really important is the genuineness of your message. And don't discount that, because, and I would like for you to speak to that, the importance of you genuinely being in alignment with whatever cause that is, whatever that story is that you're wanting to create. Like you were talking about that football player. I mean, that was the reason why his story has worked so well, is because he's he was so genuine with the story. So maybe you could speak to that, the importance of the genuineness.
Yeah, again, it's a business decision. It is a strategic business decision. There has to be an alignment. There has to be origin story, the story behind the story about why you're supporting this cause. It needs to be something that affected you or an employee personally. It needs to be something that is an issue with your industry. Um, it's strategic, and you can't just write a check, throw money at something, say, we support this, it's a flavor of the month. And, now it's mental health, and now it's, you know, this or that. No, no, it's not sincere. And again, they're watching what you're doing. They're making sure that you walk the talk. People support charities for extremely personal issues, extremely personal issues. Um, and that's why it's so powerful. That's why I've always wanted to help companies align with charities as a relationship building tool. And again, corporate social responsibility is not public relations. It is a strategic business decision. But public relations is about telling stories and building relationships. And it is a strong connecting point. If you can connect over the passion for a cause, you got them. I grew up playing golf, and I encourage people to play in charity golf tournaments because they're scrambles. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are because you're not playing your own ball. Everybody's playing the best ball. So it doesn't matter. And everybody, they have an A, B, C, and D player. So each team has really good to, yeah, not so good players. So it's set up like that. And it doesn't matter how good or how bad you are. In 18 holes over 4 to 5 hours, you are going to have a shot that saves a hole for them. And you're on a winning team. And you get to learn more about a person, like Plato said, in an hour of play than a year of conversation. You get to be with people for hours on the same team that you probably would never get a meeting with. I mean, it's a great thing to do. Any type of charity event, when you can leave the office and be with people, but it has to fit. I've a motorcycle and ATV dealership. They brought Las Vegas Ride for Kids to Las Vegas. And I worked on that for 10 years. It made sense. It's a motorcycle road ride to benefit pediatric brain tumor patients. And the owner of that organization already had a strategy. He said, I'm only going to support charities that are youth that were dealt a bad hand through no fault of their own. Well, and that perfectly fit. It makes sense. I had another payroll company that had a lot of charity clients. And for one of their significant anniversaries, they wanted to give back. And he called me and he goes, how can we make this happen? He goes, how can we involve all of our clients in this? And I said, ask them, give them a list of the charities that you serve and ask them who they want you to donate to this month, because they were going to donate like a set amount or set percentage point each. And that's how you involve people. And don't just involve everybody. Bring them into that relationship. You don't just say, oh, look at what I'm doing, and don't just say, oh, here, donate to me. Don't do that. Involve them. People want to be involved. People want to be engaged. They want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. And so many times they don't know how. Give them an opportunity. Ask them to join you. And you'd be surprised at how many other people show up too. It's
That's really what the chamber is all about, Tammy. We're really about tapping into that, the very important tendency in humanity that you
Yeah.
just touched on a second ago is that we want to be a part of things.
Everybody wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. And when you don't know, if you haven't been around that environment, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to get involved. You're not going to just walk into a place and go, I want to help. It's rare that people do that. You have to have opportunities out there. And again, that's why it's so important for the organization to share what they're doing. It's not about the organization. It's how you position it. It's not about putting the spotlight on you. It's about shining a light to set examples, and not just for that cause, but any cause. It gives them ideas on what they can do and how they can do something. And, that's where it comes from.
Another thing that stood out for me when you were just talking a second ago about the importance in this day and age that we're in, being able to control your own narrative, and that social media is only one part, although it is a big part. I mean, I love social media. I love what it does, but yes, you have to look at social media as a part of the narrative. And you
Yeah.
do have to always understand that any social media platform that you're on, you're a guest in someone else's home.
Yes.
And you have to keep that in mind. I mean, I've seen businesses completely collapse because of changes that social media platforms have made that have taken away their publicity, their ability to be able to generate money. I mean, and creating things like blogs, email marketing, text marketing, platforms where you can control your own narrative and still reach your audiences. I think that's a great point that you brought up.
Yeah, social media, it's a collection of communities, and each community has its own rules of engagement. Twitter is the soundbite of social media. Facebook is a mashup between, Twitter and LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is strictly business. And then then there's other ones, but those are the major ones. And they're kind of like the water cooler. They're the place where you can gather and meet people and have a conversation, but then you don't air your dirty laundry in public, and you don't say everything on social media. A public forum is not the place for a private conversation. It's a place to start a conversation. It's a place to gather information, start a conversation, get that familiarity, in Seth Godin's permission marketing, strangers, all the way to customers. You don't walk up to someone and go, will you marry me? You go through the dating process. You have to get to know each other. You have to decide if you can deal with each other's families. That always gets people, because you ain't just marrying that person. You are marrying all the crazy men. But yeah, so it has its purpose, but keep it in its place. Social media isn't a strategy, it's a medium. And each medium, you make the message fit the medium, just like you make the sponsorship fit the story of all involved. It's that simple. I mean, it takes time, it takes thought, it takes, a little bit of work, but it's that simple. People try to make it sound like rocket science and there's magic to this, and it's like, no, it's work. But no, I mean, what makes a good conversation? What makes you decide to do business with or not do business with, or be friends with or not be friends with? Every relationship is different. You can have amazing friends and you would never date them. And there's nothing wrong with them. They're just not right for you in that capacity. But they're great people and you love to hang around them, but you wouldn't marry them or date them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just make it fit. Make each conversation fit, make each relationship fit, make each sponsorship fit. Don't push You don't have to push your message. People will be attracted to you, and they will join the conversation. They'll enhance the conversation. They'll share it. If you don't beg them and plead them and please like me and share this and do this and you have to do it this way, and it's like, no, you don't. The best conversations begin by listening. Just like the best stories often begin as detours. You don't know where it's going to lead. And sometimes that's a good thing. You know, keep your parameters and your boundaries and stuff, but other people might have better ideas than you ever thought of, because you can't, it's like trying to write your own bio. You can't do it. You're too close to you. You just, it's really hard. And when you're in the mist and the muck, charities are tough places. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough resources. They're overworked. And I've been there, you know, so sometimes you need a fresh perspective. So engage in the conversations and listen. You know what's going to fit and what doesn't fit, but keep an open mind. Don't dismiss something, because times change, things change constantly. Everybody talks about the new normal. It's a new normal every day. You know, we were talking before, when I graduated college, there wasn't social media. There wasn't the internet. We would fax press releases. There was no email. You know, things have changed. And public relations is so much more than a press release. There's so many ways to tell stories and so many mediums to tell stories on. A press release is one tool, and it's never going to go away, but it's becoming less and less the most important tool in the toolbox. It's just one tool. And like I said, it's not going to go away, but PR used to be all about just getting your story in the newspaper, because you know what? There was one or two newspapers and there were 4 TV stations. Well, now there's how many newspapers? There's online, there's this, there's that. There's so many cable channels. Nobody is in the same place anymore. Nobody watches the same TV show that they talk about at the water cooler on Monday morning. You know, you have your groups that watch the same things, but again, that goes back to knowing where your audience is to know how to reach them. But it's not just the same like it used to be.
And that is a fundamental business principle that you talked about there, Tammy, knowing where your audience is. I mean, that's what it's really all about. And again, I greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing about the importance of stories. I thought you did an outstanding job of getting us to understand how PR works at a higher level, and how, you know, how you can get your stories told, and